All right, terrific. All right, well, welcome everybody. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, where you're at, wherever you're at. Welcome to another Gimmal education session. My name is Marcia Shields, and I'm from our customer success team. Thanks, Jeff. Our goal for these sessions are to help you and address your business challenges and showcase how your Gimmal software can be a solution. Hopefully by the end of this, we'll enhance your expertise a bit more and help you best leverage your Gimmal software. We are recording the session and we will share it after the event. Jeff Tuish is with me today. Jeff will be your subject matter expert for the session on Gimmal Discover. He will be going over a comprehensive overview of search syntax and complex expressions and how to translate those into Gimmal Discover. So get your thinking caps on, everybody. We've got some good content today. Format will be like normal. We'll do about 15 to 20 minutes of demonstration, and then we'll follow that up with 10 minutes for your questions. If you do have questions during the demonstration, please feel free to post those in the Q&A area of your Zoom bar, and we'll be sure to address those whenever Jeff is finished. I think that's all I have, Jeff. So I'm going to pass things over to you now.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcia.
You bet.
So hello, everybody. As Marcia said, today we're going to be talking about searching inside of Gimmal Discover. So I just give you a little agenda here. We talk about the different modules that we have, the search expressions, a little bit of regex, which is also called regular expressions, and then talk about our OCR function and some other things we have that can help you understand if your syntax is correct. So we're going to dive into that right near the end. So first, let's talk about the Gimmal Discover modules where you can perform any kind of searching. It's not just e-discovery. You can also do searching in both classification and data governance. And then obviously in classification, you would classify the data item. In data governance, you could report and or remediate on it. With e-discovery, of course, you're finding it like you would with a legal search. So the good news is, if you learn how to do a search in one of the modules, well, the syntax is exactly the same for every other module and every data source. So if you go from M365 email to Windows file shares to OneDrive to SharePoint, some of the different data sources that Discover can process, the syntax is going to be the same for all of those. So you don't have to learn different syntax for different modules or data sources. So that's really crucial, because otherwise that'd be very confusing trying to understand which one you use when. So let's go off and start with the simple ones first. So the typical things that we see is people would supply a word list. What I've seen a lot of times, if this is something with legal, you're getting a spreadsheet or maybe a text file, CSV file, whatever it might be, maybe an email, and it has a list of keywords in it and or phrases. And when you in Discover, when you create your search, you actually going to have the choice of using a word list with an any, an all, or a search expression. So if you have just a list of keywords, as you'll see here, then you could actually just use the word list any, and any is an implicit or. So basically what we're doing is we're placing the or in between the words or phrases when we actually perform the search. If you select all, that's an implicit and. So keep in mindful of these, that one of them is going to find a lot more than the other one is. You're going to find a lot more things with ors than you are with ands, of course. And as you can see, I'm very golf-centric today in my demonstration, so we're going to be using that throughout. But there's some other things you can do too with this. So when you're doing search expressions, if you need to be able to have things more complex than just a keyword list, then you can do ands and ors. Now, first off, you're going to notice that I am making all of the operators be with a uppercase. I just do that for readability. It's not required. Actually, typically, and you have the choice, but most likely you're going to select to have a case-insensitive search. Unless you're looking for things that you need to have the proper case on, then you obviously would be case-sensitive. So first off, looking for the words driver and hybrid together. Obviously, we're not going to find a match unless both are present. But you can use some other things. So I'm not going to be showing you all the different things that you can do, but I wanted to give you some ideas on this. So first off, parentheses, which are very vital. You can use those to be able to do, like you would in math class, the order of operations. So here we're showing you the 12 minus 6 divided by 2 versus 12 minus 6 divided by 2 with the parentheses. This one obviously would return, for those of you who are math, would return 9, and this one's going to return 3. So make sure you parenthesize properly if you need that to be. If you're trying to do one word with other words, like we're doing here, then make sure you're doing it properly. Use those parentheses. You actually won't be penalized by Discover if you have too many parentheses. So if you think, gee, I need to put some on there, don't hesitate, just put them on. It might be a little confusing if you have too many, but they won't hurt anything if you're putting parens on. But then be careful, like I say here. So we're looking for driver and hybrid or iron and putter. This is going to be interpreted different than what you think. That is not equal to this. What it's saying is I need to find hybrid or iron with driver or putter on this. So once again, use the parentheses, use your operators properly to help you find exactly what you're looking for, because we want to do, obviously, we want to mitigate those false positives, and we want to make sure we include all true positives. If you have an embedded space, hyphen, comma, or parenthesis in the text, like we have here for John Smith, you need to encapsulate that within double quotes, because that's basically saying, I want the space be one of the characters that I'm looking for. So be sure to do that anytime that you have any of these special characters in your phrase. Make sure you use double quotes around them. Proximity, which is really, really nice to use. But I will caution you on that, because I'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's explain this first. So this one's saying if the word driver is within 3 words of hybrid, or the word driver is near 5 words, and now look what I did. I have an or condition for my keywords, but I put them within the brackets. If you're using near, I could not use parentheses here instead of the brackets. I have to use the brackets. So there are some things that you need to pay attention to when you're going through this. Otherwise, you're going to get errors. And we're going to be talking about that at the end and how you can identify those. So why would I not use proximity? Well, you have some things on here that you have to make sure that you're covering all your permutations. So let's say that we're looking for a social security number, for instance. You got to be careful that if you're looking for SSN or social security, however it's spelled out, you need to make sure that you're finding the proximity properly within these words. So just be wary that you could be eliminating true positives if your proximity words are not fully defined. So just a word of caution on that. Not saying not to use it, just be cautious. And then the wild card, which is really nice to use. You'll see I put the word support followed by an asterisk. So I can do support. So any of the tenses of the verbs I can do in this. So that way you can find all of those. So the wild cards, like the old DOS commands, really come in handy with this. Okay, now we're going to jump into the deep, dark world of regular expressions. For those of you who have never seen a regular expression or don't care to admit that you use it or know it, I get that. But what they're for is they can go out and find patterns, things like a credit card number, social security number. So if you're looking for this, you can go through and do this. But you can do more than just patterns. You can exclude values from here, which I'll be talking about what we're looking at down here with all the beautiful colors. And then you can also look at the trailing and leading characters prior to the match to get some better results on what you're trying to find. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at a regular expression trying to find a social security number using a hyphen, you see here in magenta, using a hyphen as the delimiter between the values. So I'm not trying to teach you regex here. I just want to make you aware of things you can do. And I am by no means an expert on this. But first off, you'll notice let's go starting with the yellow. What these are looking for a leading and trailing character. So what that means is that if we find a match on the pattern, but if the character immediately preceding or following that match is either a hyphen, it's been escaped, hence the backslash, or any number, then basically that's part of a larger pattern. So we want to exclude that because that would be a false positive. So you can do that with regex. You can also do this. I'm going to jump to the cyan color here. And what this is doing is being intelligent on a regular expression. So once again, we're looking for a social security number. Social security numbers right now can start with any number 0 through 6, followed by any number 0 through 9. Notice the 2 here. So we have 0 through 6, 0 through 9 twice. Or it could start with 7, 0 through 2, 0 through 9. What it's doing is we're saying we don't want to find a match on the social security number that is not valid, even though it matches the pattern. Maybe the administration hasn't issued it yet. Right now, notice 77 is the highest one. So 78, 79, and 8 and 9 have not been issued yet. So what we're doing is making sure that it's one of these, once again, to mitigate those false positives. And then you'll notice for these ones here, basically for the green, we're saying that we just want any 4 numbers, in this case, 0 through 9, or any 2 numbers. But then what's the red all about? What the red is saying is, I want to make sure we're not including things that are invalid. The number, social security number 1 through 9 consecutive has never been issued and never will be. None of these social security numbers can start with 0 or have zeros, all zeros in any one of the 3 components. Socials can't start with 666, as you can imagine why. So once again, you can do all of this in regex and be very intelligent of making this be so smart that you're really mitigating those false positives out of there, but at the same time, making sure you're including your true ones. And here's the thing down here, one little note: you cannot use regex for fast or quick search. We've talked about that before in previous education sessions. In Gimmal Discover, you have the ability to take advantage, and I'll talk about basically 365. There's an index on 365, and we can leverage that for keywords, but not for regex. So what it does basically is saying that, say we had 10,000 messages in the inbox, and we passed those parameters via a fast search, and we passed the keywords into 365. Instead of us having to look at every message saying, is this a social, is this a keyword match? What 365 would do is get us back maybe the 100 of the 10,000 that matched, so it's obviously a much faster search. But we cannot leverage regex in that. So just wanted to make you aware of that. But here's the one thing I wanted to talk about as well, is the OCR. So I promised that at the beginning. We do have the ability in Gimmal Discover for, and you'll see here, only for, sorry about that, only for Windows file shares or Windows endpoints can we do an OCR check. So what are we doing? We're not actually converting the file. So I want to make sure you understand that. What we're doing is we're scraping the text out of an image, such as maybe a TIFF file or an image-based PDF. We're scraping the text out of that. We're looking at the text saying, do we have a match on the values? If we do, then we're going to say, hey, this is a match. But we're not changing the format. The format of the file is exactly the same as it was prior to us searching it. So we're not converting it. We're just able to go out there and do an intermediate search of the text to see if we have a match. But once again, that only works for Windows file shares, no other data sources. Now, obviously, we're always looking to improve the products. If you have a need that, hey, I need to be able to do this for OneDrive, let us know, and obviously we'll put that in our feature list. But the last thing I want to really talk about here is the test for the syntax. And what this is you're going to notice that when we go through, and this is in a workflow right now, but we have the ability to test the syntax. So if you're going through and you place your syntax in, you can click on that button, and it's going to come up and it'll say, okay, here are your phrases. Notice how it's broken them down. And what do you want to do? Why you want to search text? Or I have a file that I want to test that. Text and test to make sure you use those properly. So you can include a file that saying, hey, does this match the keyword? So if you have a file that you know is a seed out there that you want to make sure that your syntax is working on, that's great. Or it can do what I did and actually just put some sample text in. So I clicked on search text. I put some sample text in here. I clicked on OK, and here's what comes back. So what it's telling me is the first and most important thing, keyword hit. Is there a match? This is saying, using the syntax that I have over here and using this search expression with this text, do I have a match on this? If the top line is green, you're good. That means that your syntax is working properly. And then it's going to tell you what part of this was true. This is a very powerful mechanism to be able to leverage to give some insight on that. And in fact, if you even go down here, if you can read this, what it's telling me is that what character it found the matches for these two in green. So you can actually go through, and if you want to, count through these or bring them up into maybe into Notepad++. You can actually don't have to count yourself and put that phrase in there. But this will give you some insight as to exactly where it found those matches. I would highly encourage you to always use test prior to saving the workflow or the e-discovery search. Because the last thing you want is for it to not provide the results you want. This is the measure twice, cut once mentality. Let's do it up front. And then once you're confident with it, then submit it. So that's pretty much it, Marcia, for the search syntax. Is a lot more, obviously, I could cover, and please feel free if anybody has any questions, even after this, reach out to me and I'd be happy to answer them the best I can. Once again, I am not a regular expression expert, but I will say that probably the best $40 I ever spent was buying a piece of software called Regex Buddy, which allowed me to join a forum that people are just dying to share their knowledge out there. So I've actually posed questions out there on how to do some certain things. And it's been a really, really beneficial $40 that I spent. So if anybody wants anything about that, let me know as well. I'd be happy to reference that for you. Marcia, you're muted. Sorry.
That would help. Thanks, Jeff. Could you go back to your last slide? I just wanted to point something out to the audience. I was trying to find the link and post it in the chat, but
Oh, yes. Thank you.
at the bottom here, we do have a full syntax guide for Gimmal Discover. This is on our website. You could follow this link here, or if you know how to navigate on the Gimmal.com website, you could go to customer login and then to Gimmal Docs and navigate your way. But just wanted to point that out. There is a whole guide on that, which is very helpful. So,
yeah, thanks,
Jeff.
Marcia. There's some great examples out there too. So it's not just telling you, it's showing you, which for me is more important than telling me.
Yeah, great. So we do have some questions, but if anybody, you can still post questions in the Q&A. Please feel free. Jeff, I have a few for you here.
Okay.
One of them is, can the search expression be a combination of keywords and the regex that you talked about?
Actually, you can. So you can do that if you so choose. So once again, you don't have to only use regex for patterns. You could also find words if you wanted to with regex. But I would encourage you to always use keywords when you can use keywords. But yeah, you actually can have a search expression and then regex behind it, or even with an and if you like. So you can do that.
Okay. Another question that came in is, are the keywords case sensitive? I think you might have touched on this, but can you reiterate?
Yeah, I did touch on that, but yeah, let's make sure everybody understands. Inside of both e-discovery classification and data governance, you have the option to say, is this case sensitive? I would encourage you to make it insensitive at all times unless you have a direct need to make it case sensitive, because once again, you could be losing out on some true positives with that.
Okay, great. Another one we have is about proximity. Can proximity be both useful and not useful?
Yes, like I was saying, it's just be careful with it, because if you're just looking for a particular word, that's great. But when you're looking for, and once again, I'm going to use social as an example, there's so many different ways that people abbreviate letters prior to a social security number, such as SSN or spelling out social security number or SS or SS pound. There's just so many different ways. And if you have the proximity, it's going to do its job well, which is saying, well, sorry, it wasn't one of the words within 5 that you specified, so I'm not going to give you the match. So it's great for its usage. Just be careful of any of those permutations that could bite you.
Okay. And then we do have one more, and it was asking about masking values. Can the matched values be masked?
Good question. So yes, if you're doing this is specifically for, well, actually for both governance and e-discovery. When you're going through, for instance, let's use governance as an example. Say, once again, we're looking for socials. I would always advise masking the data. So in the workflow, you have the ability to actually mask the data. What that means is that when we create the report in Gimmal Discover, you're going to tell us how the data is to be stored. If you are not masking it and you're looking for a social and you include the match in the report, which is your option to or not to do that. But if you do include that value, then that's raw data. And I wouldn't just show somebody social in like that. I would mask it always. So you have that option. I mean, if you're looking for keywords, that's your call. It's more the PII that we heavily advise you to mask.
Right. I think that's it. No more questions coming in. All
Okay,
right. So, well, thank you everybody for attending. We hope you enjoyed this, obviously. As a reminder, we will send a session recording, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you, Jeff. These education sessions we're twice per month on these still across each of our main products, Gimmal Records, Gimmal Physical, and Gimmal Discover. So next on the agenda here is Gimmal Records on May 21st, but for Gimmal Discover, look for us in June. June 25th will be our next session in Gimmal Discover, and that's going to be about endpoint management. So we hope you can join that. Any of these sessions can be registered at gimmalevents.com. If you have suggestions, we're always looking for ideas, and we're actually working on Q3. If you have ideas for a session that you would like us to consider to review, please email me and I'll be happy to get it on the list. But thank you everybody for your day. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.